she will be set free from the Assyrian yoke. So it's a deliverance from within and without. You know the term, or you've heard the term, we need to fear more from within than or without. So, from the midst, and we set free from the Assyrian yoke. At the same time, he beholds God's great powers, his jealousy over his people, and his vengeance on their enemies. Yes, that's a God of love. He does everything in love. While envisioning the might of these two belligerent powers, Nahum at the same time envisions the liberation of the church from the Assyrian yoke, recorded in chapter 1, verses 12 to 15. And, that's Nahum, and in chapter 2 of Nahum, verse 2, and also the vengeance of God recorded in chapter 1, verse 1 to 9, and to facilitate the reader's comprehension of these three all-inclusive aspect of this forecast, this tract deals separately with each. Yes. Now then, and that's tract 14, 4, page 4, paragraph 2. Now then, who specifically are the actors in the dramatized forecast of Nahum, especially who, under the present or future setup of nations, could these two belligerents possibly be? And have they yet come to grips? If not, when are they destined to do so? Now that we have gotten a general overview of how Assyria or the West expanded, let us now look at Nahum's view of things. Nahum the prophet. We hardly ever heard the book of Nahum or read the book of Nahum, you know. But as we are going to see, Nahum has valuable information about the expansion and the growth of Assyria. Remember, we look at that modern Assyria after the Dark Ages, after the fall of Papal Rome. So, it even speaks about the fall of Assyria. We will see details about that fall of Assyria. We are going to see that Nahum speaks of World War II, including Hitler and how Assyria will eventually fall. We will see details about World War II and the future war. And we will not find, of course, anywhere in the Bible. Nahum, we will find that though. That is why it's necessary for us to study this entire book, why we need to look at it so closely. Yes. It's not long, but it has a lot of information. It only has 3 chapters in Nahum, but it is loaded, as the term is. It is loaded. All right. It is loaded. So we will need to look at that very closely, and it will require much concentration. So we are going to ask you to turn to the book of Nahum now. As usual, you make sure you make notes. Nahum chapter 1, we're going to begin there looking at our subject. Now, the key to understand Nahum is to understand that God sees World War II as if it is one war. If it was one war. Alright? So when we read Nahum, especially chapter 1, we find an intertwining or an overspread of World War II and the future Assyrian war. Now this is important to keep in mind. We're talking about World War II, so that is history to some of us. But the Bible will bring it out as one war still to the end of time. The war, it will flare up. It gets cold, but it will flare up. And the Lord sees it as just one war. So we may use term World War II, World War III, but it's just a firing up of World War II, as the Bible states. So some of those basic foundational information down. Put another way, Nahum, like the other prophets of the Old Testament, mingled both the past and the future. We say from time to time that they wrote more for our time than for their time. That's true. The prophets, Bible prophets, have written more for our time than for theirs. In this case, Nahum, however, we have the type, the ancient fall of Assyria, then the antitype, which is World War II, then the completion of World War II, what we would term World War III. But the Bible, God sees it as a completion of World War II. Remember, we have read that in God's way of viewing things, that is God's way of viewing things, World War II is not actually over. World War II is not actually. So World War II, that is the completion of the war, deals with the fall of Assyria again. And the antitype, in other words, Nahum shows us the type, yes, but we have to focus on what? The antitype, which is the World War II, and then the completion of World War II. Alright, so we have the type that Nahum will look at, and the antitype, World War II, but then we have to look at other aspect of World War II that was not dealt with, and tell you what the Bible will be fulfilled by dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's. So if there's something that Nahum says that was to take place in World War II, we will see that it was not fulfilled, even though there was a fulfillment of the war. It means that the war right now, from the point of view of God and the Bible, is to be completed. It is it is an unfinished duty. Unfinished business is the term. Now let's go to Nahum chapter 1, verse 1, and I'll read. The burden of Nineveh. What did I say? Nineveh. We explain who Nineveh is, the capital of Assyria. The burden of Nineveh, the book of the vision of Nahum the Elkoshite. Here you notice that the burden or the concern is the capital city, Nineveh, capital city of Assyria. Now Nineveh was the capital city of Assyria, ancient of Assyria. We have mentioned that before, but just to refresh our memories, now Nahum is addressing Assyria and its chief city, so Nineveh then, again, is the capital or the chief city of modern Assyria. Now the question is Nahum referring to ancient Assyria or modern Assyria? Well, we have just answered that it is modern Assyria, but let's see why. You, of course, must have figured that out already. Nahum's prophecy is about the West, the English-speaking Christian world, or the Protestant nations. How do we prove that? Well, let's go again to the book of Nahum now. We look at chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. Let's look at that. We will come back to chapter 1, but we want just to establish clearly beyond a shadow of a doubt that Nahum is speaking about our modern Assyria or modern Nineveh, not the ancient one. So to do that, we must go to chapter 2, verses 3 and 4 again. Well, let's take a look at it. Nahum chapter 2, verses 3 and 4. And I read, "The shield of the mighty men is made red. The valiant men are in scarlet. The chariots shall be with flaming torches of the day of his preparation." Let me read that again. The shield of his mighty men is made red. The valiant men are in scarlet. The chariots shall be with flaming torches of the day of his preparation, on the day of his preparation. And the four trees shall be terribly shaken. The chariots shall rage in the street, they shall jostle one against another in the broad ways. They shall seem like lightnings, like torches, they shall run like lightnings. I want you to digest this verse, talking about our means of transportation, or a means of transportation, and what period of earth history does it fit. Verse 4 again said, "The chariot shall rage in the streets." Nahum was in vision, and he was getting all this. He was looking into the future. Speaking with his language, of course, chariots and shield, but he was speaking future language. We reiterate again that these prophets have written more for our time, today's world, than the world yesterday. So again he said, "The chariot shall rage in the streets, they shall jostle one against another in the broad ways. They shall seem like torches, they shall run like lightning." Familiar? Do these verses not seem to describe something familiar to you? Doesn't it sound like our modern highway traffic? It says that these chariots shall rage in the streets, in the broad ways. They shall run like lightnings. And what other age could you place chariots moving on streets, broad streets? 7-lane streets and all those things, thoroughfare, like lightnings. Lightnings. Beep, and you finish a highway. Just the exits just moving behind you. Lightning traffic. It's our days, brothers and sisters, Naomi is talking about. It says that these chariots rage in the streets. The broad way they shall run like lightning, and with torches, headlights. That sounds like downtown New York, or the interstate in California at night, doesn't it? In other words, this prophecy of Nahum is of our time. So this war prediction is made with the thoroughfares of cities and countryside are congested with vehicular traffic. Same with air traffic. We talk about speed, swiftness of vehicle, air traffic. The super bomber or the stealth bomber. Remember that the ancient prophets could not use modern words like cars or trucks, tanks and airplane, so forth. They could only use terms that they could understand. That is why the expression like torches and chariots are used. More information about this in track 14, the War News Forecast, 5 and 6. So with this in mind, we now know that Nahum was actually writing for our time, not his time. Thus, his reference to Nineveh, Assyria's capital city, is in effect reference to modern Assyria. It's reference to the West, especially the United States and allies. We have already seen that Nahum's prophecy applies to our time, but this is how we know that it is applicable especially to World War II, and then later to the continuation of World War II, what we would call World War III. How do we know this? We are going to look at he that dasheth in pieces. Of course, so let's go back now and take a look at what we know that Nahum has application to World War II. And then we look later on and how it has application to the continuation of World War II. The future war. Let's take a look at Nahum chapter 2 now, verse 1. Nahum 2 verse 1. And it says, and I read, He that dasheth to pieces is come up before thy face. Keep the munition, watch the way, make thy loins strong, fortify thy power mightily. Now, who is this, he that dasheth in pieces? Well, according to the scriptures, God is here telling modern Assyria to prepare or fortify herself, because he that dashes in pieces is coming. This is a prediction. This is precisely what happened, though, in World War II. And that's what happened in World War II. Listen to, as we read track 2, it described very beautifully what World War II was about. And I read, the prophet moreover states that after the one that dasheth in pieces, comes up before Assyria's face, then it is that Assyria makes her loins strong, fortifies her power mightily. As the whole world knows as just what took place when Hitler came against the Allies. The Allies being unprepared to fight Hitler when he started dashing in pieces, and we will break down dashing in pieces in a moment. When Hitler started dashing in pieces, they necessarily fortify their power mightily after the war began. All these facts prove that World War II is the war prophesied by Nahum, and that Hitler is the one that dashes in pieces. For more information on this very point, you could see Timely Greetings, Volume 124, page 14 through 18, and Timely Greetings, Volume 1, number 3, page 13 through 16. Write this down. So, this fact is also verified by history. History. Adolf Hitler, with his Nazi party, came to power in 1939 in Germany. Yes, that's right. You heard that bell? The fact that Hitler conquered so many places in Europe and for a time seemed almost to win the war did indeed dash Europe to pieces. Hitler is the one that splintered Europe. Splintered Europe. So the name "He that dasheth in pieces" fits him perfectly. In other words, brothers and sisters, again, Hitler has to be the man the scriptures entitle "He that dasheth in pieces." Prophecy fulfilled and being fulfilled. Now let us look at another point, a very important point, and that's found in Nahum 2 verse 5. Remember, we are speaking about proving that Nahum was talking about World War II, and of course the continuation of World War II, and that his worthies are to stumble in their walk, that is, they are to make some kind of blunder on their march to victory and cause them to fall. And this is exactly what happened. Hitler's army stumbled by waging war against Russia while he was in war with Great Britain. Yes. That critical moment of his career was Hitler's greatest folly. England was just about to give up, but the German army pulled back and went to fight Russia. And to the fall of his worthies being mentioned before the fall of Assyria is mentioned, the prophecy thus reveals that he that dasheth in pieces, Hitler, was to come to his end first. Beautiful, beautiful. History and prophecy go hand in hand. Brothers and sisters, we are digging in the deep recesses, the deep truth, the meat of the gospel to understand these things. It's beautiful. That's exactly what happened historically, and so you see that definitely Nahum is talking about World War II with Hitler and the Nazi. And then Hitler was to make a mistake on his march to victory. He almost won World War II, but he made a blunder. He was to fall, but later Assyria is going to fall. So those are two instances we are looking at. And history tells us, by the way, that indeed England was about to give up again. Some historian would tell us that they had sent, that England had sent an envoy. You hear this? Someone, in other words, to negotiate with Germany, unbeknown to them, a possible surrender. And at that very moment when when that happened, Hitler retreated and went to fight Russia. As a result, he lost the battle there. Part of the reason was that as he was approaching, just perhaps as close as 20 to 25 miles away from Moscow, the capital of Russia, his army gave out. It was too cold, and they started to lose their men. And as a result, they had to retreat. That was the beginning of the downfall of the Nazi army. And as a result, eventually, Hitler had to surrender. So Hitler fell first, according to Nahum. And that is precisely what happened in history. So it is clear that Nahum's definition are definitely prophesied about the events of World War II. But as we said earlier, Nahum does not stop with what happened there, as history would have it. His message is really about the fall of Assyria, the world today. So why does God use World War II as a background, a backdrop for the fall of Assyria, when she actually does not fall until later on in the future? Well, here's why. Listen to these inspired statements. Now found again in Timely Greetings, Volume 124, and that's Volume 124, page 14 and 17. And I read, "It is plain to see that the one who dashes in pieces and who comes before Assyria's face is the one who forces Assyria to prepare to militarize herself mightily." So there's a cause and an effect. Why Assyria, and why Assyria became Assyria, modern Assyria, in terms of an alliance of powers. They were driven to alliance of powers because of what Hitler did in World War II. Yes. And these guys are written in prophecy, and they had to serve out their time. You may consider that we're talking about Hitler, especially as it relates to the gas chambers, that what he did to the Jews. And so we know that that is a sensitive area now, or in these days, in the political world more so, when we talk about Hitler. But there's another side that the prophecy is showing, where he plays a part in prophecy. And yes, it is clear, history shows that what happened to the Jews under the Nazis, Hitler. God allowed him to do a lot of things, and of course he fulfilled prophecy. Yes, the Holocaust. So yes, the Holocaust did happen, and you know, the Bible has to refer to him. Okay, so we're going to pause here. This is a power-packed prophecy, and I would encourage you to read Nahum. We're going to pick up again right here before we even finish this slide. We're going to pick up again the prophetic flow of events, warfares, snares and traps, troubles, kingdoms clash, peace and tranquility. We'll pick up next time, and we will deal with the rest of modern Assyria, the Western Alliance, and what is about to take place. And in the middle of the Western Alliance giving way to the ecclesiastical world power of Revelation 17, God's church kingdom, the premillennial kingdom of God's church, will be up and running. The kingdom of God will be in the midst, smack in the middle of the transitioning of this world to the next world, will be God's church kingdom. It's the premillennial kingdom. It's the kingdom that He has asked us to, He has taught us to pray for. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Brothers and sisters, you don't want to miss this part of God's kingdom, because missing this part means missing all the parts, all the other parts. It is that serious. It's a life and death message that we have. Judgment begins first in the house of God, and this is what that is about. God bless you. Thank you for stopping by this morning. Share the word and contact us if you find something that you're struggling with. The Holy Spirit brings to you. Don't look over your shoulder. Don't ever look on Brother Tom, Dick and Harry, Sister Mary, Jane and Sue. God has called you at such a time as this to embrace the message of the hour, to finish the gospel work. I hope you will let Him in as He knocks on your heart's door. God bless you. Call the number 1-800-729-7494. Get some of these materials that we can read upon the truth of the hour. Brothers and sisters, the way of God is in this sanctuary. Who is so great a God as our God? Learn your message. Join us again.